Hi there. My name is Ashley. I'm a software developer, and I am a member of a women in tech community that tends to share different strategies for approaching development or interviews, stuff like that. And I was a part of a really interesting thread where folks were talking about Obsidian. That's what I have shown on my screen right here, and talking about how they're using it. And one person shared that they don't use Obsidian, but they do use Notion, and they set up a whole workflow within Notion where they can specify different Leet Code problems and um, specify a date when they completed that problem, a cadence on when they want to revisit that problem and practice it again. And then Notion will just give them like a spreadsheet of these are the problems that you should practice today because they're due today. And so I thought that was like a really cool idea on how to approach studying by building this workflow to kind of take the mental aspect out of it. And I wanted to show how you could do that with Obsidian. So I have a fresh vault. I haven't added any community plugins to it. This is all just core functionality that comes out of the box with Obsidian. I have just some bare bones files under a Leet Code problems folder within my vault. And these have what Obsidian calls front matter. You may think of it as metadata, but they're just different properties that I'm going to replicate throughout these different files. So this one has last reviewed. The property type is date. You can have different property types, but this one is date. And then I have a revisit cadence. So for this one, we'll just pretend this is like a linked list leak code problem that I last reviewed on September 1st. And maybe I really struggle with remembering certain algorithms related to linked lists. And so I want to revisit that every 3 days and just remind myself how to do that and make sure I can still do it. And maybe here's problem two. I last reviewed it on August 5th, and I want to review that every 30 days, and so on and so forth. So if we wanted to create something similar to what this person said they created in Notion, let's try it out. So let's create a folder. Let's call it bases. And maybe in this one, I'll create a new base. And bases are relatively new to Obsidian. I believe it released just this year. And it's basically a feature that allows you to treat your notes and that metadata or front matter, as Obsidian calls it, as queryable. So you can treat your notes like a database and kind of create different views. You can query it and gain different information or insights from your notes, which I think is really cool. An extension of this, because Obsidian kind of has this really extensive community plugin um, economy, it's really cool that there's another plugin called Data View. That's what I was using for a really long time that enabled that queryable functionality. And now Obsidian has baked it into the core platform, but called it Bases. It's not quite as extensive as the Data View community plugin. So that's something that's still an option, but at least for if you're new to Obsidian, there's nothing that you have to fiddle with. You can try this out straight away. So let's rename this to like Leet Code tables. Maybe we'll do that. And then, so right now off the bat, you can see it's already listing like all of the files within my vault. So including this welcome one that comes with just any vault, and it's even listing the base file that I created here. So let's filter all views. So any other views that I create in this base file, and I want only the files that are within my Leet Code problems folder. And there we go. So now I just have my 5 problems in there. And maybe because I don't just want to know the file names, I want to know the metadata that I added. So last reviewed and revisit cadence. Okay. And so now to add the functionality that I thought was really cool that this person demonstrated that they did in Notion is this. We're going to add a formula, and I'm going to call this due date. And basically what I want is to calculate based on when I last reviewed it and when I want to revisit it, what is the next due date? And this is really intuitive. So I'm just going to say date. I want to start with my last reviewed date. I'm going to click that. Want to add my revisit cadence. I'm going to click that and I'm done. There we go. Let's check. So September 1st plus 3 days is September 4th. That makes sense. August 5th plus 30 days, also September 4th. That makes sense. Maybe if I update this to something else, maybe, I don't know, the 1st, that does update. So 30 days from August 1st is August 31st. It's great. So I can see this is all working. And maybe I want to add one more formula, which is just is due. And I want to check if the due date is less than or equal to today. Boom. And so I think this pretty much replicates the same functionality that this person was showing, where they can see which problems they should practice today because they're due, and which problems they don't have to worry about because they've practiced them recently enough. So let's rename this. So instead of just table, let's just do all problems and then save that. And maybe now I want to duplicate this and create a do table and then duplicate it one more time and create, and this will make sense in a bit, a completed table. Okay, so let's look at, so now these are all the same, they just have different names. And maybe on do, I want to filter just this view so that is due is true. Great. And then I want to go over to completed. I'm sure you can guess what I'm going to do here. And I want this one to be is due is not completed. Great. And now this is okay, but one cool feature with this is I can, instead of a table layout, I can make it cards. And I feel like for review, this could be really cool to see it in a card layout. Again, I added nothing to these. I could add like more details here. I can paste in some images, whatever it is that I want. And I believe all of that can show up in here. But yeah, I haven't played around too much with that. And then maybe completed, I also want this one to be a card view. So this is a really cool start. And then what I think is really cool about Obsidian is they also have this idea of canvases. And so now this is like an infinite canvas. I can, let's just drag something in here like this. I can drag something in here. I can add some sample text. I can do whatever I want in here, and I can zoom out and you can see it's like an infinite thing. I can add as many things to this as I want. I can zoom in. It's I think the infinite canvas is like a really cool functionality within Obsidian. Anyway, so let's zoom in a little bit more. So let's say I want to make a dashboard. Let's rename this to Leet Code dashboard. Maybe this is homework, and maybe I want to combine these and make this a group. So actually, I don't need that anymore. Let's do it like this. So this is homework, and maybe because it's homework, I want it to be yellow. I've got this in here, and maybe now I want this to be the ones that are due, and then I'm just gonna pin this. So because I have different views in there, I want to make sure it always shows this particular view. Great. And now I'm gonna copy this, paste it, and oh, I didn't copy the whole thing, but okay, you get the idea. And maybe this one will be completed. And I want to pin this again to just the completed ones. And because it's completed, maybe I'll make this green. I can resize it, make it look nice. If I want different text here, um, problems completed, I can put that there. I can put, an arrow to this if I wanted to. But now I've got this dashboard, and I think that's really cool. And you can kind of from here see different things. And if I wanted to, I could, for whatever reason, maybe I want this file in here, maybe I want this one in here too. Again, this shows me like the details that I added. I can edit it from here, edit this file from Canvas. And then when I go back to actually view problem one, it did update the file directly. But yeah, you can, I think this is like a really cool way I was really inspired by that person's idea of using Notion to streamline their workflow on how they were preparing for interviews and studying Leet Code problems. And I just wanted to show how you could do that with no additional community plugins in Obsidian. Um, if you want to see some crazy stuff that I've done in Obsidian in a different vault with the data view plugin, which I think is a little bit more extensive than the bases functionality, is something like this, where I have this massive dashboard of different Sudoku medals that I've earned in this app that I play. There's a competitive mode, and I got really crazy with it and just started taking notes. And based on those notes, I created this dashboard view of like different medals that I've earned. And just to give you an idea of something that I don't think bases can do is something like this, where I have a query that tells me how many days in a row I've been able to consecutive days in a row, I've been able to earn a medal within this Sudoku app. And I don't think Bases would allow me to do that. But that's just a sneak peek into some of the crazy functionality that you can do with Obsidian. Data View plugin, again, is a community plugin. It's not something that comes with just Obsidian out of the box. But this functionality bases, as soon as you install Obsidian, this is exactly what you get. And I think there's a lot of functionality that you can do just with that. So yeah, I thought this was like a super cool idea, and I just wanted to show how you could do it in Obsidian. Thanks.